Okay, so I'm back in this scene, same one, haven't left. We're going to talk about data asset exchange now. Data asset exchange is pretty important because that's the process of getting all the stuff that you work so hard on in Maya and ZBrush and whatever other program you use, and get that stuff into the Unity engine so that you can have yourself a game. If you can't get that done, then you have a serious problem. Fortunately, data asset exchange is very simple with Unity. The Maya pipeline to Unity is actually pretty simple. We're going to be using the Fbx format. Now, with Maya in Unity, Unity actually supports Maya scene files in the sense that it can read Maya scene files and then it takes data from there and imports it into Unity automatically via the Fbx format. Now, there's two ways that we can do this. We can do this through Maya scene files, which has pros and has cons. And we can also do this manually through the Fbx exporter straight out of Maya and into Unity. Both methods have pros and both methods have cons. So I'm going to show you both methods, and then you'll just have to decide for yourself which method works best for you. In my opinion, one method works better than the other, but it depends on the situation you find yourself in. Okay? So method number one. The easiest and simplest and most straightforward method is to simply save out your Maya scenes inside the Unity project folder, and Unity will automatically import the stuff in. The good side to doing it that way is it's the easiest and simplest and most straightforward, streamlined way of importing stuff from Maya to Unity. The downsides, in my opinion, is that you don't have a lot of control. You give up a lot of the import control to the automated process, and that can have some drawbacks. So let me show you how this works. Right now, what I want to do is I want to import these two objects, the rebar here and the damaged wall that we've already sculpted and everything, and it has a normal map. If I check with viewport 2.0, you can see the normal map. It looks pretty cool. And what I want to do is I want to get these two items into the Unity engine. So if I jump to Unity, I have this scene open. Let me go to my test scene actually. Okay, this Unity project comes with this training product. It's included with it. It was done with Unity 3 Pro. Okay, and you can use it with regular Unity Basic, the free version of Unity. The only thing is that Pro features like some lens effects that I put on the camera over here won't work, but that's no big deal because in this tutorial we're not focusing on that. Our focus is on creating assets for games. So it's no big deal. So you should still be able to follow along even if you have Unity Basic. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure you have this test scene right here loaded up. I've created this folder in here called Meshes, and it's empty right now, but that's where I'm going to be putting my 3D meshes from Maya into. It's just a workflow thing that I do. You might want to do something similar just for organizational purposes, makes things easier. Okay? And the way I'm going to import is actually pretty simple. Let me go back to Maya. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to select anything. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Save Scene As, and I'm going to save it inside the project directory for Unity. So if I go to Unity Project, I'm going to go into the Assets folder, and there's my Meshes folder. This is the same Meshes folder from Unity. So I'm going to open that folder up. It's empty right now, but I'm going to drop this in. So what I'll do is I'll call this test scene from Maya, just so we know what it is. Okay. I'm going to hit Save As. It's going to save out as a Maya binary file .mb, and now I'm going to jump back into Unity. And you notice that Unity's doing something. It's busy. What happened is that Unity is smart enough to notice that there's a new file in the Meshes folder. It's a Maya scene file, so it's automatically reading it and it's importing the stuff in. Depending on how much stuff you're importing, it could take a long time or a short amount of time. In this case, it took just a few seconds here. And you can see what it imports in. It imported in a materials folder, which if we look at, as you would expect, it's got a bunch of materials from my test scene from Maya. It's also got a node here, an Fbx file, and inside there we've got all of our geometry from that scene. Okay? So, as you can see, it did it simple. I didn't have to do a thing. All I needed to do was just hit save inside of Maya, and everything got brought in. Okay? And that was it. It's very simple. here's the bad side to it. The bad side to it is I don't have much control. I don't have any control whatsoever. So everything gets decided for me, so to speak. Okay. You'll also notice if I go to materials and I look at the materials that we brought in from Maya, these don't look like the materials that we had inside of Maya. They don't look like it at all. You automatically get these diffuse materials that look like Lambert materials inside of Maya, which is totally wrong. But that's just, part of the whole data asset exchange process. So there's no solution that's going to take care of everything for you automatically. Okay? It just doesn't exist. You will have to come in here manually and fix things yourself. So the exporter, the whole import process takes care of a bunch of work, but it only meets you about halfway. The rest of the work you're going to have to do manually yourself. So that's just a fact of life. You're just going to have to accept and get it done. So if I just take the whole object here and I drop it into my scene, you're going to notice something very, very wrong. If I bring this up and let me actually scale this down a bit, it's a bit big. You'll notice that we have a lot of objects. Some objects that I didn't want. If I jump back to Maya, well, this is what I wanted to bring in, these two objects. So why in the world when I go to Unity I have all of this mess? Well, that's because this is one of the drawbacks of using the Maya scene file format to import stuff to Unity. The drawback is that if I go to Maya, let me go to the outliner window, see all this stuff that's hidden? All this stuff right here? And let me unhide it so you can see. All of this stuff was imported into Unity. That's not good because that's not what I wanted to have happen. Okay? So that's one of the main drawbacks of importing using this method number 1 into Unity. It's simple, it's streamlined, it's easy, anybody can do it. Problem is, you don't have any control. Okay? So, me personally, I don't like to import stuff like that most of the time. I'll just be honest with you. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stuff, let me take this and let me delete it. I'm going to go into my meshes folder. I'm going to take the materials and the testing from Maya and I'm just going to delete that stuff, get it out of here. Don't really want to see it. Okay, let me go back to Maya. This is method number 2. And method number 2, it's a little bit more work. Not really that much work, but it's a few more steps. The good thing is you get a lot of control over what in the world is going on in your scene. Okay? So if I take this object here and I look at its material attributes, it does have a map. It's got a normal map attached to it. This object over here actually doesn't have a normal map attached to it. It just has this material, this damaged rebar material that I've put on it, and I just changed the color to this sort of brownish color. But you don't have to do that. Let me just change it back to like a gray or something like that. Okay, let me take this object here and the normals look fine here. Alright, so basically I want to just export these two objects out, nothing else. So I'll take these two objects, I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export Selection. Let me go to the options, and you want to make sure that you choose Fbx Export. If for whatever reason Fbx Export doesn't show up in your list of options, don't panic. It's very simple. You have to go up to Window, Settings and Preferences, go to the Plugin Manager, and find the Fbx Exporter in here. It will be in here. Okay? You'll find it here, fbxmaya.mll. Make sure it's loaded. Sometimes Maya can get kind of quirky. We saw that earlier in this training product, how Maya can get quirky and unload your plugins for you without you telling it to. Alright, so I'm going to hit Export Selection. I'm going to get some options here. These options are very important. By default, you should have Autodesk Media and Entertainment. If not, you can select it right there. Okay. I'm not going to change anything for all these reference and include options. The file type specific options, this is actually where all the main options are. So geometry, we do want to export geometry, of course. Leave all these options at default. This stuff works pretty good. Animation, there's no animation here. We're not exporting the character out. Cameras, we're not exporting cameras or lights. Embed media, I'm going to check that on so that we can embed media, and what that refers to is things like texture maps and stuff like that. And connections over here, I'll leave that alone. Advanced options, units. This is actually pretty important. This determines the scale factor, what size the object comes in at. I'm going to leave it at automatic. Scale factor of 1.0 is fine. Axis conversion is very important. Fortunately, Maya and Unity share the same up axis, which is the Y axis, so I'll leave it on Y. UI, we'll leave that alone. Fbx File Format, if for whatever reason you wanted to, you could fall back to an older version of Fbx. 2011 works fine. And that's pretty much it. Then I'm going to give this a name. But you want to make sure that you put this in the meshes folder, which is where I'm going to put it. And I'll just give this a name. I'll call this Damaged Wall Maya or something like that. Hit Export Selection. And I'm going to jump back into Unity. When I jump back into Unity, you can see that it imported all the stuff in. Okay? I want to show you one more other thing here. Let me go to my right-click menu and go to Show and Explore. If I bring this opens up an Explorer window here. I'm going to go to my Asset Meshes folder, and there's a folder here called DamagedWallMaya.fbm. Okay, and if you look over here under Meshes, we have the Materials folder, which is right there. We've got the Damaged Wall Maya, which is right there, but we don't have the FBM folder. This is kind of a weird bug I found with Unity. For some reason, it doesn't import it on the first shot. This folder of FBM actually contains our normal map. And for some reason, it doesn't bring it in until you leave Unity and come back a couple of times. It's a really weird quirk. I don't know why it happens. It just does. You can see now the Damaged Wall Maya folder, the FBM folder popped up that contains our normal map. Okay, just a weird quirk. Data asset exchange is kind of like a black magic. That's just the way it works. Okay, so now that that's done, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to take this damaged wall and drop it here inside of our scene. It's way too small at the moment. We can't even see it. So I'm going to take the scale factor, set it to 1. All these other options I'm going to leave alone. I'm going to hit apply. There's our object. It's a little bit too big at the moment. So what you can do here is scale this down a little bit and get this closer to the middle of our lighting right there. Okay. Right now, this object doesn't have the materials set up. The materials imported, here's the rebar material and the damaged wall material. Unfortunately, again, data asset exchange is a black magic. Nothing's perfect. Okay, so here's this item here. I'm going to switch this over to a bumped specular shader. Okay, and for the normal map, I'm going to go to that FBM folder, that shadow folder, that ghost folder, if you want to call it that. Disappeared and then came back. I'm going to drop in the normal map. Now you can see that this texture is not marked as a normal map. This is very important. I could hit fix now, but I'll show you how to fix this manually. If you go to the actual normal map, to the importer here, it's going to import by default as a texture type. What you want to do is go here, set it to normal map. Don't let it generate from grayscale right here. That's going to ruin the normal map. So take that off and then hit apply. And now you can see in the viewport it got fixed. It's good to go. So let me jump in my scene here. Let me actually walk up to this wall. And there it is. There's the wall with the nice normal map. It's only missing the texture, but the normal map right there does a lot of work to make the object look very detailed, very nice. Awesome. Looks really cool. Okay, so that's going to do it for that right there. This is the damaged rebar. If you want to switch this to a specular shader, you could to make it nice and shiny if you're into shiny objects. And that's pretty much it. I'm just going to end this video here, and in the next one, I'm going to start to export all the stuff. So what you might want to do right now, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to Maya. I've exported this object out. I'm going to go to the other scenes that have all the other objects and stuff that we've worked on in this tutorial, and I'm going to export that stuff out in the Fbx format, and then I'm going to import that stuff into Unity. And in the next video, we'll clean this stuff up, final touches and stuff, and get this done.